Hi everyone, Tommy from Bad Golf for Good. Bad Golf for Good's mission is to connect the golfing community to local nonprofits and small businesses through fun and inviting golf related events. During each of our events, our goal is to spotlight one of our local nonprofit organizations. So today we will be talking with Sydney Guerette, founder and executive director of Be the Change Youth Initiative, an organization that is encouraging and empowering youth in our communities to use their gifts and talents and their voice to better our community for a better tomorrow. So let's welcome Sydney Guerette, again, founder and executive director of Be the Change Youth Initiative. Welcome, Sydney.
Thanks for having me. Super excited.
I'm excited too. Thanks so much for joining me. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. So I'd really just like to dive in. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to start Be the Change Youth Initiative and maybe how the mission has evolved since day one?
The original idea started when I was 14, about to turn 15. Never imagined it becoming a nonprofit. It just started out as something that my family did for fun. But growing up, my parents had always encouraged my siblings and I to use our birthday parties as a way to give back. And so for my 15th birthday party, I wanted to do something a little bit larger than what we've done in the past. We've done birthday parties at the Ronald McDonald House, raising money for them. Grew up in Portland, Maine, so there was a chapter of that there. Also animal shelters. I love animals, so we had some parties at animal shelters. But my parents used to be wish granters for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and so that felt like a very nice segue into, oh, there's a chapter of Make-A-Wish in Portland. I would love to help out youth in this way, so let's just plan on doing that. I committed to it. I told friends and neighbors, other family members that I was going to fundraise for this thing. And then I look up how much it would cost to grant a wish in that chapter. And the average wish cost was like $7,000. And that
Wow.
was a massive undertaking because I had never raised that type of amount in my life. I started freaking out because I already told people I was going to do it. And then my mom calmed me down and she was like, this is possible. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. And how about you not do this on your, like, by yourself, get a bunch of friends involved. And so there was a group of 10 to 11 of us where we all kind of encouraged each other to pinpoint the things in our lives that we already enjoyed and loved doing. So some of them were really talented runners and wanted to run 5Ks over the course of the summer and wrote fundraising letters. Some did bake sales, some sold t-shirts. My friend and I, we wrote a song, recorded it in his basement and sold it on Bandcamp. It was just a collective of students who just encourage each other to pinpoint, like, what are our gifts that we can use to actually highlight something that's important to us in our community. And there was a group of us in this friend group that went to the same youth group. And the youth pastor, when he found out that we were fundraising for this, he actually discouraged my friends from getting involved and told me things like, I'm not good enough, I'm too young to make a difference. And so I was kind of holding both of these things at the same time, like, well, I mean, I saw a group of us do this thing and we fundraised and it took us 6 months to do it. But at the same time, we still did it. And then on the other hand, this adult who said that we couldn't do it and was trying to discourage us from actually believing in ourselves that we can make a difference at a young age. And that's kind of where the idea of Be the Change came about. And we ran with that. And it was just something that my family and I did for the next 3 years by creating many fundraising packets and meeting with kids from ages 5 to 17 to create micro fundraisers, really targeting the things that they enjoy doing, from building Legos to riding their bike to putting on talent shows. But it was just highlighting and giving them a platform to actually say that you matter, your voice matters, and how can you use your voice in order to uplift more kids in your community. But that's kind of how it all started. That was the original idea. And today will mark, or this year will mark 10 years of doing this work. So
Wow, 10 years of empowering the youth to make a difference in their community and know that they are strong enough to do so. So kudos to you to not listening to the naysayers and making a platform so that these youngsters know that they are strong enough to make a real impact on their communities. That's really amazing. And that kind of brings me to my next question. So Be the Change believes that all youth should be seen and heard and loved. So can you tell me a little bit more about what does that mean in practical terms for the youth that you work with?
You definitely spoke into that a little bit. I think because I had so many different instances, that being just one of them, where I've had people tell me that my talents aren't good enough. People within the music industry. So as a singer-songwriter, when I first started, and I don't talk about this as much, but this definitely helped, not helped. It wasn't helpful in the moment, but it also was kind of a catalyst in wanting to make Be the Change a thing. But there's a person in charge of a songwriting summer camp who created that was her thing, that I attended to for 3 years over the course of 3 summers, who actually, whenever I was like started writing and wanted to sing her a song that I was writing about the topic of suicide, she listened to that song and she told me like, that's not good enough to be on the radio. So there were definitely things that like happened in both the creating Be the Change, the fundraising element, but then also in my own like choice of wanting to pursue music as a career, where I've had people tell me those things, that I've had people not see worth in what I have to offer, not see worth because of my age. And so because I've had enough of those instances and those stories kind of accumulated over the last several years of the beginning of Be the Change, when I was starting to kind of ruminate on what this idea could be, that was very important for me to have that be what we really wanted to pursue moving forward, because I know firsthand what it's like to have people not believe in you. And at the same time, I also know what it's like to have people believe in you, because that continues carrying me forward. Now I have a support system of people that I trust. And we wanted that to be what Be the Change did, because we do want youth to feel like they are seen and they are heard. But in order to do that, you actually have to open them and connect them to those possibilities and give them the opportunities to actually be able to live that authenticity out. And so that's really kind of why we wanted to make that the pillar of what Be the Change means moving forward.
Yeah, so it is just so incredibly important to remind the youth and encourage the youth of our communities that their voice is important and is impactful and can make a real change for a better tomorrow. So outside of just continuing to encourage them and remind them that they are being seen and heard, what are some of the other challenges that the youth in our communities face that your work is helping them to navigate and helping them to address?
We talk a lot about how our biggest pillars are youth empowerment and mental health advocacy. My brother and I, we go into schools quite a bit for different presentations, and we like to take care of going into the schools firsthand, just because we know, like, we started doing that when we lived on the road. We took Be the Change after deciding to move out of Maine, to just take the mission of Be the Change and the fundraising packets and working with youth between ages 5 and 17. Like, we did that on the road for about a year before COVID. And that's kind of when we started doing presentations where we would align our advocacy work with our music to talk about these stories and talk about the importance of mental health advocacy. And because we started opening up about our own experiences with mental health, started hearing stories from other youth about their own experiences. But I think one of the biggest things that we see is especially like online bullying with social media. I think that is something, and I was looking over, the questions that you were asking, and one of the things that stood out to me is like the difference between like generations. So how a lot of older generations didn't have social media, and now social media is such a big hindrance when it comes to our own mental health, constantly comparing ourselves. I know that when social media started first coming around, I was in elementary school, middle school, so still pretty young. But I got Instagram for the first time when I was 14. And I remember having that for 3 weeks and then just being a wreck after, because I was constantly comparing myself to all of these other people that I was following and saying like, I'm not enough because I don't have these good grades, or I'm not enough because I don't do all these sports, or I don't look a certain way. And it's so easy to get caught up with that because it is a highlight reel. And sometimes we forget that we're all collectively in this world, and this world is really hard to live in. And it's so hard to distance that type of mindset when we're just scrolling on our phone on a daily basis. So I would say that's definitely one of the biggest things that we've seen in continuing to do this work is it's easy to hide behind a screen, and it's easy for those loud, mean, bullied voices to come through that screen because it's like a distance. It's a distant connector from each other.
Yeah, social media really can be a scary part of our world. As a father of two young children myself, I want to remind my kids constantly that what they see online is not the real world. It's a facade, it's highly edited, it's a perfectly staged moment, and that's not something we need to aspire to be. What we need to aspire to be is a difference maker in the offline space, in the real world, in our communities, with our friends, with our family, and that we are all uniquely beautiful and talented and caring and inspiring in our own way. So it's great to hear that Be the Change, focuses with the youth that the social media space is not the most important thing out there, and that there is a lot of bad and fakeness to that. And kind of brings me to the point that I really wanted to learn more about is your Ambassadors of Change program. It seems like you're using this program to uplift the youth so that they can be more involved in the communities firsthand. So, can you tell me a little bit more about what participation in the Ambassadors of Change program looks like for the youth?
The Ambassadors of Change has always been a goal for us since we started Be the Change. We always kind of imagine like what would it look like for the decisions that we make with the nonprofit moving forward would be all based in what the youth in our community and city want to see changed. And I remember when we started, this is our third year of doing it, and next school year will be the start of our fourth year of doing it. But during the first year, we only were working with three students, like three high school students from different schools in Hamilton County. And then the second year, we moved up to four students. And then with this year, we have 11. And so it's really cool to see, like at the beginning, when we were first starting this pilot program of what Ambassadors of Change could even look like, we asked the three students that we started working with, like, what are the things that you want to tackle in our city? Like, what are things that you want to know more about? What are the topics that you want to focus on? And they all decided on food insecurity. And that was nothing that we had imagined Be the Change really focusing on, just because up until that point, like I said, it was just youth empowerment and mental health advocacy. But we did want to give voice, or we wanted to open Be the Change up to having the youth voices be the leading cause for what we decided to do with our organization. And then we just decided to move forward in that. And it's been really cool because the Ambassadors of Change program, we meet monthly with our ambassadors, but the overall overarching goal is to give them the leadership skills and to connect them to nonprofit owners, business owners, other creatives in the area that are doing amazing work and have amazing programs and nonprofits already. And then having them meet with them and talk with them and learn fundraising skills, grant writing skills, media skills, like how do you advocate well, and then being able to pinpoint different projects and connect them to those projects so they can advocate and fundraise for things that are already happening in our city. We like to say that Be the Change is a bridge to different nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
Like to really focus on collaboration because people say that better together is so cliche, but at the same time, like I genuinely believe that. And I feel like we base most of the work that we do, if not all of it, on that alone. Hard. Finding funding is hard. And I feel like, especially in Chattanooga, with so many nonprofits, people are constantly fighting for the same funding. And so we really wanted to be a resource to say, like, we're all doing very similar work. It's different in many ways, but we're all wanting to tackle the same things and we're all wanting to make a difference. So how can Be the Change become this avenue of connecting amazing youth leaders to those nonprofits and basically giving them like, hey, we're giving you those skills and those resources and connecting you to the people that you can learn from. Now run with it, do your own thing and be the leaders that you guys want to be. So that to me is like what's most, what I'm most passionate about that we do. But our Ambassadors of Change, I love all of them very dearly. And we still keep connected with the people that have moved on to college. And yeah, it gets me excited. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really incredible that you're encouraging these kids to use their own talents and lean into their own interest, and then aligning them with groups that coincide with their thinking and the types of impacts that they want to make for our community. So that's really encouraging to hear. Also, I think you bring up a great point about Chattanooga as a whole. This is a city that is, very loving and eager to give back to the organizations and groups that they want to support. But a lot of times it can feel like, how can my dollar make the best impact? And I know that you've worked with local businesses like Becaffeinated, for example, for the last few years, where they'll do something like adding 25 cents to 50 cents onto a specialty drink or a pastry or bagel, and that extra 25 cents goes back to Be the Change and helps to contribute towards the work that you're doing. And I just was hoping you could speak a little bit on how, just that small contribution from a local business or an individual contributor can go a long way for an organization like yours.
It really have, we take a lot of pride in how much we're able to get done with very little money. Like my mom and I, we work, I mean, sometimes we joke, it's like 60, 70 plus hours a week, but only get paid part-time. And that's because we have enough funding to pay for that. And we also just hired on another staff member, and we've had one staff member with us for about 2 years now. So there's only 4 people on our team. And I want to say that we brought in, I think it was $180,000 this year alone. And most of that money did not come to us because we're fundraising for either the Hamilton County School Food Debt or for other nonprofit friends of ours in Chattanooga. But we do a lot of work. But honestly, like the reason that we're able to get it done is because of the intentionality piece. We collaborate with a lot of folks in order to make community engagement a big part of our nonprofit work. We collab with the people that are either like will volunteer our time or they're willing to take like a small stipend. And there's a lot of people here, at least that we've seen since being in Chattanooga, like yourself too. I mean, I think it speaks to how many people are willing to use their gifts and talents to highlight the things that are happening in our community. If they see a need, they're willing to reach out and be like, hey, I'm wanting to step in. Like, I want to step in and help. And there's so many of those people here that have made it possible in order to Be the Change the way that we've done it. It's been finding those trusted people, community members that are saying like, I have something to bring to the table. And then we all have our thing that we can bring to the table in order to make it happen. But we would not have been able to do the work without those people in our lives. And we're very much aware of that. So that's how we're able to do it with as like little amount as possible.
Yeah, it really is important to remember that a little bit can go a long way. And I am just so proud to be a Chattanoogan. I've met so many people that live in the city that are making a huge difference in the world, a huge impact. And you're one of those. And I really applaud the work that you and the team at Be the Change are doing. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. And I know we're running up against time. And again, I want to thank you, Sydney, for taking the time to sit down with me today. But before we go, what's the message that you really want every young person and every adult who listens to this conversation to walk away knowing about the work that you and Be the Change are doing?
So in order for us to continue moving forward in the mental health advocacy space, but then also encouraging others to be their most authentic, true selves and feel like they belong somewhere, we have to create more spaces where we can all bring something to the table in order to make that positive impact. So I think if you had to take something away from the work or from this conversation, it would be you have something uniquely about you that makes you who you are, that you can use in some sphere of life in order to create a positive difference in the world. Whether that's something that you're doing with your nonprofit or being a part of another volunteering aspect or creating something new or coming and doing a collaboration with other nonprofits and organizations, or just getting a group of friends together to have monthly dinners to make sure that you're in community with people. It could be the little things that help us shape and help us create more spaces for people to feel seen and feel like they belong. So I would say that's the biggest thing.
Wow, I love that. Thank you again so much for your time today, Sydney. I've really enjoyed our conversation and learning more about all the work that Be the Change is doing for the youth in our community. Again, I'm Tommy Igo, co-founder of Bad Golf for Good, and this has been our nonprofit spotlight, sitting down with Sydney Guerette, founder and executive director of Be the Change Youth Initiative. Remember, golf changes lives. Go play.